On April 25, 1998, the first Pokemon Center store opened in Nihonbashi, Tokyo, sharing the same building with the offices of Pokemon's co-creators, Creatures Inc. The Pokemon Center store was a massive one-stop shop for anything Pokemon, from plushies to Game Boy accessories to stationery. This concept proved to be incredibly popular and was soon followed by a location in Osaka in November 1998, a location in Nagoya in 2002, and a location in Fukuoka in 2003. There are currently 14 Pokemon centers throughout Japan, as well as a location in Singapore. Pokemania never left Japan, and it looked like, for a while at least, that it would never leave the United States either.
Bring all your skill.
Be forewarned if you haven't been already, the hottest thing in the 12 and under set is coming soon to a theater near you. Pokemon the movie joins Pokemon the video game and Pokemon the trading card as must-sees and must-haves. To start us off tonight, NBC News correspondent Colleen Dominguez on the craze that has now hit Hollywood.
Pokemon arrived in the US several months after the opening of the Pokemon Center in Tokyo on September 28, 1998. Almost immediately, it took the country by storm. Pokemon and everything that came with it, the video games, the card game, and the anime, were almost universally known throughout the states. Merchandise flew off of store shelves at an incredible pace. As the franchise's popularity grew, it became apparent that the company needed to expand in order to keep up with demand. In 1998, Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures Inc. created the Pokemon Center Company in order to manage the stores. This was later transitioned into the Pokemon Company and was one of the first projects the late Satoru Iwata worked on for Nintendo. As Pokemania gripped the States, the Pokemon Company USA was founded in 2001 in order to better curate products for an American market. With the formation of a specialized American company overseeing all operations, it seemed like a no-brainer to bring a Pokemon Center to the United States. And New York City, full of glitzy, over-the-top store concepts, seemed like just the place to do it. It just so happened that a bar in Rockefeller Center was leaving its prime location after opening in 1996, and the Pokemon Company scooped it up. Their plans for an American Pokemon Center were progressing at a rapid pace. As all of this was happening, the final months were nearing for the Warner Bros. Studio store, a former giant of specialized retail that also carried an array of Pokemon products. The Fifth Avenue location closed in February of 2001, with the Times Square location closing that October, and all the other locations following by December 31st, 2001. However, people seemed optimistic that the Pokemon Center could succeed where the Warner Bros. Studio store had failed. In July of 2001, retail giant Toys R Us opened their flagship store in Times Square. This 110-square-foot, multi-floored giant of a store boasted a large animatronic T-Rex and a large indoor Ferris wheel, as well as numerous other interactive displays. This store opened at a time when Times Square was making a transition into being a more family-friendly space, a transition that was happening through many other areas of the city as well. The Pokemon Center in New York would continue this push, and construction began in early 2001, with the Pokemon Company USA entering into a 15-year lease for the property at 10 Rockefeller Plaza. The designers had to adhere to Rockefeller Center's strict design guidelines, as well as work within the boundaries of a historical building built in 1937. The store could have no external signage and would have to utilize the giant multi-story windows in order to draw in guests. Many design elements were pulled from the Art Deco architecture of the original building, including distinctive pillars, custom brass Pokeball door poles, and the store's official logo. This gave the location its own unique flavor and made it distinctly New York. Following a tradition set by the Pokemon Centers in Japan, Pokemon Center New York City selected 3 Pokemon to act as mascots on exclusive merchandise: Pikachu, Charizard, and Pichu. They would be included on advertising material as well as limited edition statues, commemorative pins, and t-shirts. Pokemon Center New York opened on November 16, 2001. Even amidst an economic slump and a decrease in overall tourism post the 9/11 terrorist attacks, the center's week-long opening celebration was a major hit. Spread out over 2 floors and 13,000 square feet, the store contained 40% exclusive merchandise unavailable anywhere else. There were life-size statues and animatronics of various Pokemon scattered throughout the building, including numerous Pokemon hanging from a moving circular track in the ceiling. The first floor was also home to the Ultra Pokédex, a hub for information about the 251 existing Pokemon. On the second floor was the Gotta Catch 'em All machine, a Pokemon distribution center that allowed guests to insert their own copies of the Pokemon Game Boy games to receive an exclusive Pokemon. What Pokemon the guests could potentially receive changed often, and generally corresponded to new Pokemon movies, game releases, or seasonal holidays. This was also the easiest way to get what we now know as shiny Pokemon, with some events offering only shiny variants as a prize. Nearby was a gallery of rare Pokemon cards that guests could look at, and several tables where people could bring their own decks and battle each other. This was also the location of the store's frequent Pokemon trading card game tournaments. One final thing on the second floor was the Pokemon Trainer Gym, which consisted of several TV screens hooked up to N64s and later GameCube systems, where guests could try out the latest Pokemon console games, including Pokemon Stadium and Smash Bros. At the center of it all was a giant Pokeball that descended from the ceiling to spew fog and put on a pre-programmed light show every hour. While the Pokemon Center was full of exclusive merchandise, there were 3 items in particular that they heavily advertised in both the store and online. These items were the Pokemon Mini, the exclusive New York City Gold Game Boy Advance, and the Pokemon Magical Clock. The Pokemon Mini was a small cartridge gaming system with an LCD screen, and the spiritual successor to the Pocket Pikachu, which released in 1998. The Mini came in 3 colors, Wooper Blue, Chikorita Green, and Smoochum Purple. It was released and available in the New York City Pokemon Center on opening day, November 2001, and cost $39.95, almost half of what a Game Boy Advance cost at the time. The system was bundled with 1 game, and while 10 games were released in Japan in total, the United States would only receive 4 of these. Despite its massive battery life and several other cutting-edge features like an impressive internal clock, the system sold poorly and was quietly retired. The New York City Pokemon Center had an exclusive variation of the Game Boy Advance that was gold and featured Pikachu and Pichu on the screen. However, too many copies of this variation were produced, and they also eventually showed up at other toy stores such as Toys R Us, lowering the collectability value. Very soon they were retailing for $69.95, bundled in with a copy of Pokemon Crystal. For reference, Game Boy Advance units generally retailed for $79.95. Hobbyists looking for cheap spare parts for Game Boy Advances snapped them up and took them apart, making this once unwanted system incredibly difficult to find intact these days. Many units found on sites such as eBay are newer builds, cobbled back together with spare parts, and finding one untouched in box, which is really the only way to guarantee its authenticity, will run the buyer several $100s. Final item is the Pokemon Magical Clock, a gold clock that opened up every hour and played one of several Pokemon tunes from the games. This item has become an incredibly rare collectible on the secondary market, with one selling on eBay in August 2020 for nearly $1,000. They appear very rarely for sale online, and bootlegs are unfortunately common. Aside from exclusive items, the Pokemon Center NYC also offered pre-orders for Pokemon video game releases. For example, with Pokemon Coliseum, a spin-off Pokemon game that released for the GameCube in 2004, they offered a bonus disc, a download code for the Pokemon Jirachi, and a Pokemon Center New York City shirt. Also released in 2004 was Pokemon Box, a Pokemon storage disc for the GameCube. In Japan, this quote-unquote game was available anywhere GameCube games were sold, but in North America it could only be purchased at the Pokemon Center in New York City or through the American Pokemon Center website. Because Pokemon Box was not a traditional game, it had less distribution, and is now one of the rarest Pokemon games in existence, netting hundreds of dollars on eBay. The Pokemon Center in New York City trudged along throughout the early 2000s, trying its best to compete in a volatile economy, but it was quickly becoming apparent that Pokemania was dying out. The 4th Pokemon movie, Pokemon Forever, was the first Pokemon movie to not break $1 million at the American box office in its opening weekend. Slowly but surely, Pokemon cards disappeared from playgrounds, children stopped watching the anime, and toys were piled high on clearance racks. After opening in 2001, there were very few updates made to the Pokemon Center. The Ultra Pokédex was never updated with the new generation of Pokemon, and was instead eventually used as a screen to showcase upcoming Pokemon products. While the Gotta Catch 'em All machines were updated to support the release of Ruby and Sapphire, the interface lost a lot of its care and polish in the process. Guests were also no longer limited to receiving only one Pokemon per day. The Pokemon hanging from the ceiling ceased to move along their tracks shortly after opening. Animatronics with moving parts broke down and were not repaired. The Pokeball centerpiece on the ceiling had its fog effect turned off and its lights dimmed. The store was failing to meet sales projections, but was locked into a 15-year lease. Despite frequent in-store events and contests and trading card tournaments, it was still struggling to keep its head above the water. On January 19, 2005, the Pokemon Center in New York closed its doors for what was intended to be simple maintenance and updates. The official website posted this notice. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Pokemon Center in New York will rise from its own dust in order to rebuild itself as a better, stronger store. That's right, our flagship store is closing for a few weeks as we remodel, rework, and reconfigure the space at 10 Rockefeller Center in New York City. The store is projected to reopen in spring of 2005, however, it would never open as the Pokemon Center again. Nintendo, who originally had very little to do with the Pokemon Center store, stepped in and took over the lease from the Pokemon Company. Nintendo immediately set to work remodeling the entire space, implementing a wider roster of their famous characters like Mario and Link and Kirby. Nintendo World opened May 14, 2005. Pokemon would still continue to have a significant, though downgraded presence at the store, with a Pokemon area taking up half the second floor, across the way from the Nintendo Museum. All of the Pokemon decorations were removed from the rest of the store, many of them thrown away or in the hands of private collectors. Several statues showed back up in New York City for a Pokemon 10th anniversary event in 2006, only to disappear forever. For several years, the Pokemon Center website continued on, acting as the official Pokemon.com store. It was shuttered in 2008 and would not reopen again until 2004 as Pokemania in the US began to return. In 2016, Japan LA celebrated their 9th anniversary with a Pokemon-themed pop-up shop containing high-end Pokemon clothing. In 2017, video game retail chain GameStop announced that they would be the first US retailer to carry Pokemon Center items in their stores straight from Japan. The future of this partnership is uncertain, as GameStop continues to financially struggle. In 2019, Pokemon briefly returned to New York with an original Stitch fashion pop-up shop, displaying the company's high-end business shirts and their flashy designs featuring the original 151 Pokemon. As of 2020, there have been no further attempts to open a permanent Pokemon Center in the United States, even as the Pokemon brand has found renewed popularity. Aside from one location in Singapore, which opened in April 2019 at the Jewel Changi Airport, the Pokemon Company has shown hesitance in opening permanent Pokemon Centers outside of Japan. A temporary Pokemon Center opened in Paris on June 4, 2014. The location was so popular that the exclusive items had to be severely limited, and the location ran out of stock long before its planned closure. Something similar happened when another temporary Pokemon Center opened in London on October 18, 2019. Both locations were flooded with guests, but still closed on their planned dates. Though its future was once uncertain, Pokemon appears to be a franchise that's here to stay. With the latest entries of the Pokemon gaming franchise standing as one of the highest-selling Nintendo Switch titles, and the continued success of Pokemon Go, it's a company that seems to have a lot more left to give. With the future of retail up in the air due to the 2020 COVID pandemic, it's hard to say if the United States will ever see another permanent Pokemon Center, but for the short time that it was there, the Pokemon Center in New York stood as a Pokemon trainer's dream destination. And even now, looking at old pictures from when it was open, I wanted that goddamn giant Suicune plush more than anything on this planet Earth, let me tell you what. Thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe in order to see more of my future content. If you have a location or a story you would like me to cover, please let me know. I also want to give a big shout out to a couple sources that made researching this video a lot easier. The first source I want to highlight is the Pokemon Center New York historical website. This website is an incredibly detailed and well-researched history of the Pokemon Center in New York. Not only does it have incredibly rare images and footage, but it has a couple neat facts that I didn't include in this video, and submissions from people who were able to visit the store. This site was created by Grace and Julie, two incredible Pokemon fans who keep it running by donations. I donated $10 to their efforts, and if you visit the site and like what you see, consider donating as well. This kind of historical preservation is incredibly important, and without people like Grace and Julie, and everyone else who has contributed to the site, a lot of this information would simply be lost. The second source is from two YouTubers, Retro Alli and Hard for Games, who did a collaboration about the Pokemon Gotta Catch 'Em All machine. If you want to know some in-depth technical information about how the machine worked, or just want to hear a couple more Pokemon Center facts I wasn't able to get to, I'll link those videos down below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.